Hello everyone and welcome to today's session on getting started with two-factor authentication. You may also hear us refer to this as 2FA throughout the webinar. This session is going to last approximately 45 minutes, which will include a Q&A towards the end if we have any outstanding questions. So my name is Abby. I'm a learning facilitator here at Sage, where I will take you through the demonstration of setting up and using two-factor authentication. We'll also be sharing a video from Mads, who is a leader within our global information security team. Mads will take you through the importance of security and protecting your data. Okay, so just to go through some housekeeping. So when you join the session, you will be placed on mute automatically. When you join, you will be placed on mute. So if you do want to ask any questions, you can use the little icon with the speech bubble with the question mark in the middle. That'll open up the questions panel. You can send your questions across to me. To download a copy of today's handout, then click the icon that looks like a little document with the folded corner. I would recommend downloading this as it will have some helpful links to our help centre. Just please note as well, this session is recorded and it will be included in your follow-up email, which you will receive around an hour after the session has ended. Okay, so let's take a look at what to expect from today's session. So I'm firstly going to play you a video from Mads, who will explain what two-factor authentication is, what is data security, and how could your data be at risk. We'll then cover why we've introduced 2FA and why it's important to you. After the video, I will cover how does 2FA impact you, and we'll cover some questions that have also been asked on previous sessions. I will then cover how easy it is to set up and use. This will include video demonstration, showing you the different methods on how you can authenticate. Towards the end, I will cover when you will need to start using 2FA, and then we'll dedicate some time to answer any questions that do come through. But again, do keep your questions coming throughout the session so we can pick these up. So let's begin with Mads' video.
So my name is Mads Howard and I manage our Chief Information Securities Office, and I help oversee all of the security programs that we run as a global security team. Now, our team is based globally, and we not only protect us as a business from cyber attacks, but spend a huge amount of time supporting our customers and aiding our customers and helping them navigate the really complex technology world that is facing cyber attacks on a daily basis. Now, fully understand that adjusting to a new technology change can sometimes be challenging. It can feel like you don't want to have this change happen, but two-factor authentication and the fact that it is being implemented is a really important step for us to be taking as a business and for us to be helping you as our customers go through. It's ultimately there to help protect you, yourselves, and our customers from cyber attacks. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes setting the scene from the perspective of global security, why we are kind of going through this technology change and why it's not only important to you, but also beneficial to you and your business. And as I go through this, what I really want you to think about is how does this go beyond my Sage account? So two-factor authentication isn't a new technology that Sage has introduced. It is available on most accounts, whether that's your social media, your personal email, your Amazon, whatever it might be, you will be able to enable two-factor authentication for free. And so as we step through this webinar today, I want you to think about actually why is this important in today's world and how can this help make you more secure all round. So a little bit about what is data security and what is two-factor authentication, or 2FA as Abby mentioned, we're going to refer to it as. So data security refers to how we as humans protect our digital assets from unauthorized access. And when we're talking about unauthorized access, that could be anybody. It could be from cyber criminals. It could be from your kids that you don't want accessing your phone. But anything that is connected to the internet is a digital asset. Now, if you are running any part of your business and you are connected to the internet, this means that you have digital assets. So I'm sure you're thinking now, actually, you've got lots of digital assets that you want to protect and you don't want people to have access to that shouldn't. So previously, we have had passwords as a protective layer on accounts. And as technology has advanced and we all enjoy the luxuries of better technology, so is the technology that cyber criminals can access. And in 2024 and beyond, a strong password is kind of no longer good enough to help protect your account. Cyber criminals are very sophisticated in how they crack passwords, in how they guess passwords, and also where they can sell them on the dark web. And this is where two-factor authentication comes in. So if any password, again, whether this is your Sage password or your personal email password, is cracked by cyber criminals, if you have two-factor authentication enabled, it ultimately stops them from being able to log in and access your details. Now, you've probably experienced two-factor authentication in some capacity, whether that's through onto your mobile banking, you might have experienced it through biometrics before, but two-factor authentication is becoming more and more kind of a regular occurrence in how businesses are looking to protect their customers and protect their data. So why is this important? Well, you might be thinking, there's no way that a cyber criminal is going to have access to my password, or why would they want my password? And you'd really be surprised at the amount of passwords that are cracked and leaked by cyber criminals daily and kind of published online, often without us knowing. And we're going to share in the chat a really great website, which I'd encourage you all to have a look at, called Have I Been Pwned, where you can see if any of your details have ever been included in a breach. And you'd be surprised. I've had details included in breaches before that I had no idea about. And what I want you to do is I want you to kind of consider that if your password has been considered to be found in a breach, and also your email has, all it takes is a cyber criminal to pair the two together and they could access your account. If two-factor authentication was there, they wouldn't be able to do that. You would get a notification and you'd be able to kind of stop that cyber criminal ultimately in their tracks. So I hope that gives you a bit of context as to the reason why we're introducing this. This isn't something that is being done to make things more difficult. This is ultimately being put in place because we want to protect you, you're our customers. We want to do the right thing by you. So a little bit about why have we introduced it? Well, I've talked a little bit there about it being best practice. And if we didn't introduce it now, we'd be introducing it shortly because we'd either be behind the curve or we'd have missed the boat and we wouldn't be doing the right thing for our customers. To give you a bit of context, we recently, as a global security team, conducted some research and we found that 25% of small to medium-sized businesses had experienced one incident in the last year, and that's just attacks that they know about. And secondly, 51% said that keeping on top of latest threats was their biggest challenge. And this tells us that it is a pain point for our customers and your fellow small to medium-sized businesses. You're worrying about this, and so we want to help to look to simplify this and take away that pain to give you peace of mind that your account is secure with us. Secondly, we as a global security team, as I said, we don't just protect us as a business, but we spend a lot of time supporting our customers if they do have their accounts breached. And in 2024, we've supported thousands of customers who simply had their password guessed by cyber criminals, or they were using the same password on multiple accounts, or their password had been cracked, and cyber criminals had logged into their account. Now, thankfully, we've got an amazing team and we were able to stop that, like any damage occurring really quite rapidly. But if 2FA had been implemented, then those attacks wouldn't have even occurred and our customers wouldn't have gone through that stress and that worry of, is their data safe and secure? Now, all of these attacks that we've seen over the last year, we know that this is the right thing for us to do for our customers, and we want to make sure that we are helping you and guiding you to be the most secure versions of yourselves. So it's really important that I stress that, you know, as we as a team, if ever you think you are experiencing something, you can always reach out to us as a global security team. We are here to support and help you. But ultimately, if we introduce two-factor authentication, we will help you on that way to being more secure. So hopefully that gives you a bit of insight as to the why this is important. It's not there to slow you down. It is ultimately there to protect you and your business and the hard work that you put into your business.
Okay, so if you're wanting to revisit or read up more about what Mads was talking about, all about the security of your data and how as a business we do that together, then I do have a link in your handout. It's towards the end, so I will cover that very, very briefly. But let's move on to how does 2FA impact me? So as an accountant, obviously you'll have your clients who you may do all of their processing, or you know, they might do some, you might do the other. So we'll talk a little bit about how it's going to impact as a whole, and then I've got some more specifics towards the end of the session. So how will 2FA impact your product? So this part is really important. So feel free to make notes, and remember you can download the handout as well. So here we have 3 scenarios. 2FA will only impact scenario 1 or scenario 2. So scenario 1 is if you or your client are using connected services within your Sage 50 account software. That may be several services or just one. You will be prompted for 2FA when you are required to re-authenticate using your Sage account. There is a remember this device option, but I will talk more about that later on in the session. If you're not sure whether you or your client are using connected services, you can click help in the software, in the company, click help along the top, then go into about, and then towards the bottom on the left hand side, you've got the section called features enabled. And you can cross-reference on this list, so under scenario 1, whether any of those scenarios, when any of those services apply to you. And then you've got scenario 2. So scenario 2 is when we introduce version 31 in November. There will be a new AI tool called Sage Copilot, where you will be required to log in with your Sage account. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail around this, but I have included some information at the end of the session that I will briefly go over if you or your client is choosing to adopt Copilot. And then we've got scenario 3. So scenario 3 is if you do not currently use connected services and currently have no plans to adopt either scenario 1 or scenario 2 by February, and you just log in with the username and password, it will not prompt you for 2FA. However, we are encouraging everyone to get ready for 2FA, as it is in our product roadmap to be rolled out to everyone eventually. And we do not have a specific time frame on that, but just to make people aware, it will be coming. So there's often a lot of confusion between what your user logon name is and what your Sage account is and what's the difference. So on the left, we have the Sage logon. So this is the window that you would see when you log into the software. This would be a username, or if you log in with Manager, that you've been assigned to log in and complete the day-to-day processing in the 50 account software. A Sage account, which is the option on the right, may be used if you are logging into many online services, but it also may be used if you're using connected services, such as remote data access or bank feeds. This differs in that it requires an email address rather than a username. So when using two-factor authentication with Sage 50 accounts, you will only ever enter a 6-digit code when you have to log in with your email address and password combination, which is the example on the right. And initially, this process will only apply to you if you are using connected services. Now, just a little bit about the Sage ecosystem. You might be quite familiar with these services, but I thought I'd just mention these anyways. So with a Sage account, again, as I mentioned, it might be that you're using connected services, which gets you access to different add-ons that I mentioned earlier. It might be that you've used the community hub, so a forum where you can ask questions, suggest new ideas, and vote on others for future versions, and just general discussions. Might be that you access My Sage, which is where you get your Sage invoices from for your products. Could be that you've raised a support ticket, so it could be with our report design team or our Excel team. Maybe that you've had data corruption in the past and you've needed a data repair by one of our specialist teams. And lastly, it could be that you've completed courses on Sage University on the latest processes and legislations. So maybe that you already have a Sage account that you can utilize without realizing. So that's just one part of the 2FA process already complete. Okay, so what we'll cover now is some important questions answered. So questions we've had on previous sessions that might actually already answer any questions that you may have. If you do have any questions, don't forget to pop them across to me so I can pick these up. So we'll go through these and then we'll move on to the 2FA process. So the first question is, why am I not able to use an email to receive a code? So we believe in using the best and most secure methods to protect your data. However, emails are where cyber criminals will target first to gain access. So we consider using an authentication app or text or phone call more secure. I don't want to use my personal device or mobile. If you do not wish to use your personal number, an authenticator app on your phone does not use or store any personal data. Alternatively, you can use an landline in an office or at home to receive a call as long as an extension number is not required. Which version of Sage 50 accounts will require 2FA? So from February, all versions will support 2FA. For connected service users, 2FA will be triggered when re-authentication is required, which can be any time up to 6 months, so not necessarily going to be at the point of logging in. In version 31, which is coming in November, when it goes mandatory in February, Copilot users can authenticate daily or every 30 days. Mobile authentication apps are offering a free trial or trying to charge. So the three recommended apps that we're going to talk about do not charge to use. If you are unsure, try visiting the provider's website to ensure you are downloading the correct app. And lastly, what if we are unable to use a mobile or landline? So desktop authentication is available to use, but this is not a method that we recommend as we do not consider this the most secure option. It is important to note that some desktop authenticators do charge, whereas a mobile authenticator app is free. If you do have any issues using desktop authentication, it is not something that we can support, and you would be pointed to contact the provider of the desktop authenticator app. Additionally, if you if you are going to use this method, you would only be able to authenticate from that location. So if you work from different sites, then it's more flexible to be able to use that authenticator app or to receive a text or phone call. If you are wanting to read more on FAQs, then if you have the handout downloaded, you can click on the FAQ button on your handout, and the link will also be included in your follow-up email if you do wish to check that out later. Okay, so let's take a look at how easy it is to set up and use. So that a setup process is broken down into 3 easy steps. We'll outline these key points and then we'll run through a video demonstration on how to do that. So when you come to activate two-factor authentication, I have provided a guide with the steps. If you use that guide, it'll get you to log into your Sage account if you already have one. It will then prompt you to set up two-factor authentication. It will then send a unique link to your email address that you use. You'll then get the option to select either a text, phone call, or Authenticator app. Now, if you are logging in to multiple companies within the hour, then we do recommend that you use the Authenticator app because there is no limit on how many codes you can receive. If you're using the text or phone call, you can only receive 5 codes per hour. So just something to be mindful of how often you're going to be logging into different clients' companies. The Authenticator app, there is no limit in how many codes you can receive. Then next you'll be applying a recovery method. Now the recovery method, it won't prompt you at the point of setting up. It will prompt you in 30 days, but like I say, I'm going to cover that after the video has been played. So what I'll do now is I'll show you the video demonstration, and then we'll do the process twice. We'll do once using the app, and then once using the text process. Again, if you do have any questions, do pop them across to me.
At Sage, we safeguard your security, value your privacy, and uphold the highest standards of data ethics. To continue to keep your business safe from cyber attacks and fraud, we've added an extra layer of security. This is two-factor authentication, also known as 2FA. Once set up, you'll be required to enter a 6-digit code. However, for added convenience, your Sage product can remember you for 30 days. This means you only enter the verification passcode again once the 30-day period has lapsed. The setup process is easy, and there are 2 options to choose from: using an Authenticator app or receiving a code to your phone. We recommend using an Authenticator app as they provide the best level of security. 3 popular apps are Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, or Authy. When choosing an app, look for one that offers capability with your devices and the ability to manage multiple accounts. The setup process will differ slightly depending on which app you choose to use. For the purpose of this demonstration, we'll use the Microsoft Authenticator app. First, let's set up 2FA using an Authenticator app. Then we'll show you the process using text or phone call. To set up 2FA, visit the Help Center. In the search bar, enter Setup 2FA and click the search icon. You will be presented with a set of results. Select the guide. Under the Resolution section, click Account Management area and log in to your Sage account. Select two-factor authentication and then click here to send the email. Open the email and click the unique link to begin the setup. Open your Authenticator app and click to add an account. You'll be presented with 3 options. Select Other. Next, scan the QR code. If you can't, you can enter a unique code instead with the link provided here. Once connected, the app will provide you with a 6-digit code. Please note this code is temporary, and after a short time the code will regenerate. You should always enter the most up-to-date code. Enter your code here, then click to continue. Next, you'll be given a recovery code. You'll need this if you want to log in the future, but do not have access to your Authenticator app. Copy this and keep it somewhere safe. This is a one-time use code, and once used, you will be given a new code. Remember to take note of the new code each time. Select the checkbox to indicate you have saved your code, and then click Continue. Two-factor authentication has now been set up successfully. Let's move on to setting up using a text or phone call. When you are prompted to set up two-factor authentication, click here. A prompt appears explaining the two ways to verify it's you. To continue, click Phone, and then select your country code and then enter your phone number in the box provided. Choose which method you'd like to use here. A landline number can be provided for phone call verification, however, this will only work if an extension number is not required. To move on, click Continue. Enter the 6-digit code provided by text or phone call in this box, then click Continue. Next, you'll be given your recovery code. Copy this and keep it somewhere safe. Select the checkbox to indicate you have saved your code and click Continue. Once you have set up 2FA, log into your Sage account with your verification code. We'll show you this now. For the purpose of this demonstration, we will log into the Sage account using the Microsoft Authenticator. You'll receive an automatic prompt asking for your 6-digit code. If you require a different verification method, click here. Your options are listed, including your recovery code. If you used an app to set up 2FA, access the app on your device to retrieve your 6-digit code. Please note this code is temporary, and after a short time the code will regenerate. Enter the code here and select this checkbox if you would like to be remembered on this device for the next 30 days, meaning you do not need to enter the verification code each time you log in. After 30 days, you will be asked for a new 6-digit code. To complete the verification and log in, click Continue. You have now logged in using two-factor authentication. You have now learned how to set up and use two-factor authentication with your Sage account.
Okay, so don't worry if you haven't been able to keep up with that video. The recording is going to be included in your follow-up email if you do need to revisit that. But also as well, there's plenty of information and resources on our help centre to support you getting started with two-factor authentication. Okay, so this is the one key part of the process that I want to bring to your attention. So when you set up two-factor authentication, it's going to give you a recovery code, and then after 30 days, it will then prompt you to select a recovery method. So I just want to talk a little bit about more of these in detail. So we'll go through that. So the recovery code, which is the one on the left, which is the one you saw in the video, this is a one-time code to authenticate when you do not have access to your primary method. So it might be that you've forgotten your phone at home, might be your phone's been lost or stolen, you don't have access to the Auth app, or you're unable to receive a text or call. Once you've utilised that long code, you will be provided with a new one that you will need to make note of and keep safe for if you need to use this method again. The recovery method, which is the option on the right, this is an alternative email address or a phone number that can be used to generate a new recovery code or reset two-factor authentication. You would use this method if you no longer have access to your primary method and your recovery code. You cannot have both phone and email methods set up. You need to select one or the other. Something to be mindful of if you do choose to use the phone number option. then we do recommend that it be different from the original device. The reason we say this is we've had cases where someone has used an Authenticator app as their primary method, but then also used the phone number for the same device and didn't have access to their recovery code and had their phone stolen. That meant they had to get in contact with the support team to gain access to their Sage account. So as long as you have made a note of your long recovery code, whether that writing it down, copy and pasting it to a document, could be a passworded document as well, you will always have access, a way of gaining access to your account. So even if you've lost your phone, got a new device, they're all resolved by having this recovery process in place. If you choose to have email as your recovery method, then you've set it to a colleague, because you can't set it to the same one that you've signed up with. Just make sure if they do leave the business that you do update your method in case you do not have access to their email address to recover your account. Okay, some summary and considerations of the video that we've just watched. So one thing I want to make clear is if you do use the Authenticator app, you must use the QR code scanner within the Authenticator app, as using the normal phone camera will not link them correctly. You can authenticate via a call to a landline if an extension number is not required. The recovery email address must differ from the email address that you sign up with. And you can also copy and paste the recovery code to a safe place, like a secure passworded document, rather than writing it all down and having to manually type it in when you need to use it. And lastly, remember this device for 30 days option will only be available per user, per Sage account, for each company. So you will need to authenticate per company if you do work on with many clients. And also as well, if you're using multiple machines, so it might be you have a computer in the office, you use a laptop or another computer at home. If you click remember me in one company, if you go home and then try to log in and it prompts you, it won't remember it on that device at home. So it uses like your cookies on that device. Okay, so your next steps, if you do wish to set this up now, in time for February, and the steps are provided on the handout, and you can just click on that get started link now. If you've already set up 2FA and you'd like to change your authentication method, or you need to change it or update the details, so you can click on the update details button, and that will take you to the relevant guide on how to do that as well. I also haven't provided a link to the FAQ page again. I would absolutely recommend that you do check this out, as it does answer majority of your questions. Now I just want to show you some other resources that you have available. So if I just go to sage.co.uk/help, and it brings me to this page here. I'm going to choose my product. So we'll click on two-factor authentication. You select I'm an accountant. You choose your product. So like I say, use desktop, so Sage 50. We choose Sage 50 accounts. In here, you will find all the information on how to get set up with two-factor authentication, how to use it, how to change your device, and so on and so forth. It also includes the FAQ page as well. If I pop back to the Help Centre, but this time I'm going to go to the Sage 50 Accounts Help Centre instead. And in the very bottom right, you will see the little green bot. I click on that. It's going to bring up this little chat function. And it gives us all the different options. And you can see two-factor authentication is in there. It's asking how can we help, how can I help with two-factor authentication? I should say when I set up 2FA. Does each user have their own Sage account, email and password? So you need to make sure that all of your users have their own user profile per company, and their own individual email address for their Sage account as well. So let's just say everyone's set up with that. That's fine. and then you're gonna click on, it might be that you're having trouble setting it up or you need help setting it up. I'll just click on I need help. And then it gives you the option for the walkthrough or give me the guide. So you've got many different ways there of getting the resources to support you with getting that up and running. Okay, so let's pop back to my slides. And we'll talk about when do I need to start using 2FA. So we began to introduce 2FA to add in an extra layer of security among some of our products in May earlier this year. We already have over 400,000 users using two-factor authentication across all of our products just in UK and Ireland alone. And we have over 49,000 users just for 50 accounts before it's been made mandatory. So this will become mandatory for 50 accounts users from February 2025. And this is again for Copilot and connected service users initially. So although it's not being made mandatory until February, if you wish to set it up now, you can following the steps that we provided you today. We are encouraging users to get set up now, so when it is rolled out for everyone, a Sage account is already set up with 2FA and ready to go. Now, some more important information for those of you who are using remote data access. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Yes, I am. Okay, so this is you follow the same guidance that we've shown you, but we do have some additional considerations. So this is really important, this part. So all individual RGA users will now need their own unique logon. So sharing logins will no longer work. Now we know this has never been best practice, and we don't encourage sharing logons. However, we did accept some users have worked this way in the past. However, each user will require their own unique logon come February. An email is required even if they're not accessing the product remotely. Again, so this is when you're using remote data access. So all users will need to have their own email address assigned to their own logon. When you pop an email address against this user or these users, this will trigger an automated email invite for the user. And if they're not going to be connecting remotely, they can ignore that email. That does get triggered by that process. If they are going to be connecting remotely, then you can obviously utilize that email that they receive. Once unique users have been, they've set up their Sage account, then they can begin to set up their own 2FA. So you don't need to set up the Sage account for the user and set up 2FA. They need to create their own Sage account and their own two-factor authentication. Now, this is where it comes specific to accountants. So especially when you use a remote data access, you could have hundreds of users that might access any of the companies at one time, and it could be via remote data access. So we've got two scenarios here. Because you're going to obviously you need to have every accountant user with their own user profile and their own Sage account. It might be that not everyone's set up. So it's a conversation you need to have with your client, and it's going to be either your client wants to add any new users that needs to be added to the company, so they'll manage and maintain all of the accountant user records. You've got scenario 2, and this is where when you create a user and you add remote data access to that user, and I'll show you this shortly, there is a little tick box that you can allow other accountant users to create a like-for-like profile. So this is if your client is happy for an existing accountant user, to create other account profiles at the same level of access or lower. Now, it could be editing an account user or creating a new one. So this is what I've just been talking about. So when you go into settings, user management, users, and then you can either create a new user, and then when you go into remote data access, you'll fill out these details and pop in a unique email address. Now, if you were to try and put in an email address that already existed on an existing user, it will not allow you to continue. Now, you've got this little tick box under the email address box. So this is where this user will be able to create and manage other account and bookkeeper user types. So they can only give same level of access or lower than their level of access. They can't be given, this user can't give more access. It could be that it might be that just the client wants one main accountant to have this option ticked, and then to have one point of contact who has any additional accountant or bookkeepers. And also, like I say, this option can also be removed at any time as well. So we just got a question coming there from Lee. I spoke to our account manager and technical support team, and they said that for accountants, this became mandatory in January this year. So it depends on the product. So some products it's already mandatory. So I know it is for Sage Accounting and Sage Payroll. But for 50, I think it is for 50 payroll for the online services. It's already mandatory. But this has been rolled out in February next year for 50 accounts. So you may still get the prompt in the software if other products that link to your Sage account are already mandatory. You might already get this prompt. Whereas if you just solely use 50 accounts, then it won't be mandatory and you won't see it pop up until February next year. Okay, so to summarize, so no changes will take place until February 2025, as I've just said, unless you have other products linked to your Sage account. Again, it's going to start initially with Sage Copilot and connected service users initially. And 2FA will only impact connected service users when they need to re-authenticate, and it's not going to necessarily be at the point of logging in. Each user requires a unique username and email address. I know some cases where everyone's using like a shared mailbox, but you will need to have a unique email address per user. If you're unable to create one via, like you say, your own domain, then there's plenty of free email providers out there that you can just create one for this scenario. If you already have a Sage account for other products or online services, this can also be utilized for 50 accounts as well. And just a reminder, each user will create their own Sage account and set up their own 2FA process as well. And the reason for this is because not everyone is going to necessarily use the same method. So it's quite flexible in terms of, someone might want to use an authenticator app, someone else might want to use text, and someone else might want to use a phone call. So it's quite accessible. So if you're wanting to obviously, get all your users set up with their own Sage account, I have provided a guide in the top right-hand corner on how to create a Sage account and set up 2FA. I've also provided a guide, a link to the generic help center and also the two-factor authentication hub as well. Okay, so this is your last opportunity to get any questions across if you do have any. In the meantime, while we wait, I will just go through some more helpful resources as well. Okay, so again, that FAQ page is popping up. So again, I do strongly recommend that you do check this out and so you can find out more information. And it might be questions that you might never thought of. You probably find the answer on there. The 2FA security information. So this is basically off the back of what Mads was talking about at the beginning of the session. So that link will give you all the security information and kind of reiterate what was said at the start. I've also provided a link as well for the Have I Been Pawned website that Mads mentioned in her talk at the start. So has my email been in a breach? So I've actually used this myself. I was quite surprised to find what my personal email had actually been included in historically. I was quite surprised. So it's quite an interesting insight. and using that website. So that is available if you do want to check that out. So if you haven't heard of Copilot as of yet, I'll just briefly go over the what Sage Copilot is. So Sage Copilot keeps an eye on your data and workflows, flagging irregularities, errors, and opportunities. Provides key insights and suggests actions, helping you to make smarter decisions faster. If you'd like more information or get registered, or it might be something that you want to have a chat with your client about, then there is an early adopters program that you can get registered for as well. It'll be in the follow-up email, but also as well the links on the handout. Just questions coming there from Lee. Do you have an exact date for the release in November for version 31? Actually, off the top of my head, I don't actually remember the date. But what I'll do, I've got a colleague on here, Matt. He'll get that date for you, and he'll try and get back to you before the session's ended. Alternatively, we'll reach out to you via email for that one. Okay, so just while waiting for any further questions to come through, we'll just talk a little bit about the upcoming webinars that you might want to join us on. So we've got some sessions coming up. So we've got the what's new in version 30.1 sessions will be coming in November. I know the release is in, I just can't remember if it's towards the beginning or towards the end of November that version 31 is available. We've also got Clear Audit Trail, Company Archive, and Year End as well. We're also going through, at the moment, we're going through our International Accounting Day event. So we've got some sessions on at the moment, automation, reporting, how to keep your data clean, that sort of thing. So if you're not being able to attend those sessions, they're also going to be available on the recordings page. We've also got a budget series on there. I think that's on the recordings page. And also as well, we do a repeat series that we've been doing for over a year now. And that's the bank feed series. So if you want to get, learn about how you can link to your bank directly, it's part of the connected services, and it'll download the transactions that you can then speed up your bank reconciliation process. If you want to get registered for any of those, do pop on to sage.co.uk/webinars, but the link is also be included in your follow-up email as well. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's session. Slightly ran over, but please feel free to stay around for the next couple of, we'll give it about 30 seconds or so. If you've got what you need today and you want to leave the session, you will receive an email in around an hour or so with links to both our webinar schedule and today's recorded session for you to refer back to if needs be. Upon exiting the session, you will see a survey at the end. If you could please let us know any feedback regarding the session, any thoughts and comments of what you've learned today, anything would be appreciated, because we do always like to improve our future sessions as well. Okay, so like I said, the question that we've got outstanding from Lee, I will pick that up after the session. What I'll do is I'll wrap this session up. I want to say thank you to Matt, who's been on hand today to answer some of your questions. And thank you to you all for your participation. Just a reminder, we've got plenty of sessions over the next couple of weeks, so don't be shy and get registered. So I want to say another thank you and take care.